Great to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you, Jared, for having me on the podcast. Doing good.
Love it. So this is your first time ever being on the show. So what I typically like for first-time guests, if you could tell the audience a little bit about your background and then talk, just kind of give us an overview of Nutanix, and then we'll go into our chat here today.
Great. So I'll talk about Nutanix first. Nutanix is a cloud platform software company, which means we provide our enterprises software and data operations to run all workloads, including traditional workloads as well as modern workloads and AI, on the infrastructure of their choice, whether it's on premises or at the edge or in the public cloud. So that's a one-liner summary of Nutanix. And a little bit about me. So I'm the Chief AI Officer at Nutanix, which means I run all things AI, which means I have multiple hats. My first hat is to build a Nutanix Enterprise AI, a product that helps our customers run agentic and inference endpoints, again, anywhere, like the full product, like the full platform we have. And another job of mine is essentially leveraging AI and generative AI to drive efficiency and use cases and growth of business apps within the company. And before joining Nutanix, I was a researcher, ML researcher, long time ago in the early 2000s, where I was actually using the old-fashioned machine learning to study, genomic and proteomic data. And then I've had a career into cloud computing, network, systems, and I jumped into AI benchmarks as a founding member of ML Commons. I'm also on the board of advisors over there, and I've seen this whole, the new generation of AI go through the roof, and culminating with ChatGPT, and then the rest is all history.
Being ahead of it, of AI as you were, right? Did you ever think it would get to this point by the year 2025? Are we on track, or are we further ahead?
We are way further ahead. When ChatGPT happened in 2022, our prediction was that enterprises will beginning to use these models on their own infrastructure, on their private infrastructure, working on private data in about 2 to 3 years. But that happened in 6 months, 6 to 8 months, with the introduction of open source large language models. And whenever I've tried to put a time frame, it's always been way lesser than my predictions. And this is one of those moments where I'm happy to be proved wrong in terms of timelines. It's happening at such an incredible pace. We are probably in this amazing time. At least in my career, I've never been in such an exciting time.
Back then, what did you think would be some of the gaps that would maybe have hindered adoption being at what it's at today? Were there any things that were there any gaps that you thought really stood out, or any major issues that we have surpassed in terms of like they're not even an issue now, but you thought they could have been back then?
Yes, absolutely. So when we looked at the space in 2022 within Nutanix, we realized that this is a really powerful capability. It's going to change the game. It's going to lead to enormous number of use cases. However, I feel that we are still in the Wright brothers moment. We are early. We are kind of trying to build the plane and the runway and the control system, control towers for it. So we realized that this technology, while it was originally introduced as a SaaS product, has to run on premise or within your private infrastructure in order for most of the enterprises to actually take advantage of. And that got fixed because now we can do that. Then we also realized that the models did hallucinate, especially when you ask questions related to your private data. So now, fast forward, we can actually, using agents and retrieval augmented generation, you can actually answer questions on your private data. So that also got fixed. In general, I think hallucinations are getting, they're getting much lower. The percentage of hallucinations, accuracy has gone up. Actually, they've gone up through the roof. And large language models, especially the new reasoning models, they can do really well in things like very complex problem solving, like mathematics, computer science. That was just a dream in 2022. We thought we'll get there in 5 years or 10 years, but we actually got there in half the time. And people were very concerned about data security and privacy. It's still kind of there, but I think now, because we can run these models on premise within our own infrastructure, within our own governance boundaries, people are getting way more comfortable. And I think there's a lot of effort within the industry and within governments to kind of put more guardrails, not just regulate. Regulation is a much more strong word, but put the right guardrails so that it can be used for in a safe way and more ethical way. I think that's underway. So we see that being taken care of. It'll take a little bit of more time, but we'll get there. So really, very, very bullish about how fast it's moving and in the right way. It's moving in the right direction.
When it comes to AI, what do you think is the most kind of over talked about topic versus the least talked about topic?
So I think one of the most over talked about topic from what I see is, oh my God, AI is going to take away jobs. I mean, it happens with every technology transition. People do get paranoid, and to everybody who's asked me this question, including my family members and relatives and friends, I tell them that AI is going to make you smarter. It's going to open up new jobs. It's going to create things that you could have never imagined. For example, you could now create protein structures and new drugs. You could use AI to create new sequences that can be used with gene editing. So things like that, and of course, self-driving cars and all. So I think that's one aspect. The least talked about topic actually is in the enterprise. My day-to-day, people think about AI as this panacea that they can just deploy it wherever and whenever they want and on their own terms. But it's actually quite hard to do it, especially in the enterprise because of a bunch of different reasons. Primarily data privacy and governance. You have to work with the existing, norms and governance structures. And I mean, data security and privacy is really important. So we have to make sure you're doing it right. And the third one is there's a skills gap because people are trying to learn AI as while they're trying to figure out what to do. And there are not that many people outside some of the walled gardens, with hyperscalers and some really niche startups that have the skills to do it on their own. So we see all of this, but overall, I think it's least talked about. How do you do that change? The change management is a three-dimensional process with people, tech, and processes. So we have to do that. That's not talked about.
I think it's just I mean it's an exciting and there's part scary time to be in because I was talking with a friend the other day. I'm like, what other technologies over the years, if you decided to do a full cleanse and went on vacation for 2 weeks without, you know, catching up on the latest and what's happening in the space, and then you came back, you would have to spend some time to see the new models that were released, like
Yeah.
all the update, and you would have to carve. I mean, you already have your emails and things that you'd have to dig back into, but this wasn't so much the case for other technologies that we've experienced. It's moving so fast that like you can get behind if you went away for 2 weeks and came back and you're like, where are we at?
Yeah, I
It's
agree
it's an
with you.
exciting time.
Yeah, actually, it's no more than I would say it's 2 days rather than 2 weeks. I need to really spend time catching up.
You're right. So it's another thing. Now you're gonna have people that don't want to take a break because it's gonna add to those emails and follow ups that they have to do. Um, we talked a little bit about the past in the beginning. Would love to kind of hear your 3-year view on where AI will go from here, and maybe you can base that on what some of your customers are saying today as well.
Right. So I think I'll talk to I'll answer your question with an enterprise lens, uh, which is different from the consumer side of things in many ways. So I think models have gotten better to the point, good enough to the point that they can be used in agents and multi-agents. So right now, we will see in the next 1 year people deploying agents of all sorts, maybe simple agents. And I think next year is when people will actually deploy multi-agents and complex agents. So with that, they will actually start getting a lot of process, efficiencies. And maybe in the third year, like it's a 3-year view, I would imagine that there would be these deep, complex agents that will actually make you, rather enable things that we didn't imagine. And this we can go double click in any vertical and we'll see that to be true. So this year is agents, next year is multi agents, third year is basically very complex agents that completely uh, you can rely on. So think of that as my digital minion. It's not my digital self, but it's my digital minion. So it will make me really go faster and be more productive, and it'll help me be more intelligent. So that's my 3-year view. And of course, in order to do this and completely transform the enterprise, like my entire processes and my people and all that, there'll be a lot of steps in between, a lot of governance stuff to be done.
Now,
And infrastructure, yeah, and data infrastructure to be built.
with all that being said, like, what are some of the things that you think AI leaders should have on their radar to also be prepared for all of that?
Yes, a great question. I think every AI leader or every company should have an AI leader inking out their specific AI strategy. Because if that is very key to a 3-year long range planning of what that company is going to do with AI. And that will have multiple dimensions, as I said, people. So first thing is to make sure you have your up leveling, upskilling, enabling people with this new technology so that they can do rapid experimentation. And we'll need a lot of experimentation. Some things will work, some things won't work. Then figuring out how you can get to a point where you can get some efficiency out of your existing process, all the way to doing things that you could never imagine. So have that as a roadmap, use case roadmap across the company. And the third one is figuring out your infrastructure. What infrastructure do you need? What's your 3-year cost horizon? What do you need to get there, right? And then the fourth one is governance of both your data as well as your AI, and working with your legal team or your chief legal officer to enable all of this in the next 3 to 4 years.
Now, you mentioned in your introduction that, part of basically your day to day is also putting together these business apps, right? That make sense based on what you're hearing. This is a question I love asking leaders at companies. You probably hear a lot of noise of things to make, like for these business applications that could make sense. How do you sift through the nice to haves versus this is an application that we actually need now. It takes priority over maybe something else. I know that's not an easy thing
Yeah,
to
it is. It is a hard question,
yeah.
and this is where we get together as leaders to do the very simple experiment. I mean, not an experiment, a simple process. We figure out, let's say, in the day of a life of a software engineer, what is he or she spending the time in, that person, right? And we try to figure out, okay, what are the different buckets in which AI could come and help. And because we have a lot of software engineers, and then we can identify, and we do this for every function, and we can identify clearly certain areas where you can see a lot of benefit with AI. And this is just the start, right? And there are areas where you can imagine that AI will completely change the game and have new applications. And that's a separate process. But even in the step one, where you're looking at how do I help my employees get better and faster and smarter. So that's how you have to do. You have to figure out how many employees, like a cohort of people. If it's 1,000 people, that's a lot of people that you want to help. And then what are they doing today without AI? And where are they spending a lot of time which they could use to do more thinking about the next thing? Because we want to set up a culture of innovation. So each employee needs more time to think about the next thing, the innovative cycle. So we want to, and then we target those things. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. Like in order to write software quickly, you have to do code generation, and you also have to figure out how to write unit testing and do code debugging. So these are the buckets, for example, that you can target. And this will be obviously the buckets will be different for a salesperson, a support engineer, and a marketing person, and so on. So
Anyone in our audience that's listening today that, whenever we have a guest on, they start learning about the company, one of the first things that come to mind are, how do they separate, themselves from their competitors? So I ask you that for Nutanix, like what sets Nutanix apart from your competition when it comes to AI?
So there are a couple of things that's really, that'll set us up aside. So we make it very, very easy. We give them, our enterprise customer, an easy button to deploy agentic and LLM inference endpoints anywhere on any Kubernetes platform, and make it easy to do the day two operations. This is one of the least talked about things that becomes the most talked about when you put an agentic app into production. That is where we really differentiate. The second thing is since we have a class data platform, we feel that AI is a data problem. So we help, again, with an easy button and data operations, connect the two, the data and the AI, which means the models, and for both reasoning, embedding, and guardrails and re-ranking and all the plethora of models. So connect AI to data. So that's the second one. The third one is, I think we are one of those enterprise players who understand AI by doing it ourselves. So we are drinking our own champagne. We are using the same stack that we offer to our customers, the same tools, and we use it ourselves to get better at doing things.
How last few questions, and sorry to thanks for answering all my questions so far too. Really appreciate it. How is AI impacting enterprise cloud strategies today too? That was one of the things I wanted to make sure I asked you today.
Sure. So I think this AI is a brand new workload. So whenever there's a new workload, there is an opportunity for enterprises to kind of rethink the 3-year plan, right, that we just talked about. What's the right infrastructure? So I feel that for a lot of enterprises, they will start in the cloud to try some of the POCs. Then they'll realize that, remember I talked about the connecting AI to your data. So when they put this AI into production, they'll realize that many of these production environments are not in the cloud. They're at the edge, extreme edge, like in a factory, or in your own data center on premises, right? So then a lot of the especially the inference workload, which is which will help enable the enterprise move forward, will actually not run in the cloud. That's one of the things that we are seeing. We are seeing AI as a forcing function for a lot of people to actually rethink their infrastructure. So if you need private AI, it has to be done on your private infrastructure. And so we see a lot of customers doing both. They are doing some of it in the cloud and some of it on their own infrastructure. And this mix is very useful because then they can run it anywhere. And that's our strategy. Meet the customer wherever they are.
Last question for you before we wrap up here today. What's next for Nutanix?
So in the space of AI, I mean, if you look at digital transformation of an enterprise, enterprises went from their cloud transformation and now they're onto their data transformation and their AI transformation. We are ready for our enterprise customers to help them land their next generation data and AI workloads and any modern workloads on Nutanix platform to make and really give them that easy button so that they can focus on their business transformation and not their infrastructure.
I love it. I want to thank you so much for joining me on the
Thank
podcast
you,
here
Jared.
today. Look forward to future conversations, but thank you so much.
Thank you again, Jared.